So I'm going to record this, guys, and I'll just shoot it out to you so then you have a copy. That way you could go back, look over any lead gen strategies we go over, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to put this together today because there's something going on in Florida that I feel like a lot of people and especially agents are completely overlooking. And that's the fact that, Florida right now, as we all know, is super hot. It's getting a lot of national attention. People are moving here by the droves. But one thing that's being overlooked is the distressed side of the market. What I mean by that specifically is there's a lot of people right now in the state that cannot make their mortgage payments. They're defaulting. So the opportunity here, the way I see it is a lot of agents, a lot of your counterparts, a lot of your competitors, they're just focused on the luxury side of things, the retail side of things, and they're completely overlooking the distress market. So just to give you a quick idea, right now, as we speak, there's over 35,000 people in the state of Florida that are in an active pre-foreclosure. Let that sink in. That's a crazy number. Over 35,000. And keep this in mind. That doesn't even count the people who are maybe a month or two behind that haven't even entered into pre-foreclosure yet. So again, there's massive opportunity here for you guys to pivot, keep on doing what you're doing in your business, but pivot and start to help these homeowners. Massive opportunity now, and then within 5, 10+ years. So as we go through this, super casual, shoot out any questions you guys have, and, we'll just have a discussion. A little bit about my background and what my company does. We're a full service short sale processing company. So essentially what we do is from start to finish, whenever you have a short sale listing, we literally process everything. So we deal directly with the bank. We facilitate the documents, the third-party appraisal, absolutely everything from start to finish, we facilitate it. So short sales are very, very long. They take 4 to 6+ months on average. And we do all of the back end work. So we team up with investors. If you guys have investors that want to make an offer on a short sale, we have a fee-based model where we do everything for them start to finish, and then they pay us a fee on the HUD. And then you guys as listing agents can utilize our service as well. So then you as the agent, you're not running around like a chicken with your head cut off to do the short sale, and it's nice and smooth. You give all that stuff to us. And we don't charge you, and we never charge the seller. Again, we get the fee from the buyer. So let's go over exactly what I mean when I say pre-foreclosure. So a pre-foreclosure is when somebody is defaulting on their mortgage and they're not paying their lender when they reach the 90-day mark, give or take. So they're behind, give or take, around 3 months. The bank is going to start the foreclosure process. They're actually going to file, and they're going to take the first steps to foreclose on the property, take it back, and then auction it off. Okay, so the pre-foreclosure is essentially the seller's last chance before they get foreclosed on. So the bank is starting that process. Now there's 3 specific ways I'm going to go over with you guys that my team and I actually go out and we get these pre-foreclosure deals. You guys could utilize this and you could go get listings from it. You could increase your listing database drastically. Source number 1, this is my absolute favorite. This is way, way, way under the radar. Literally no one is doing this. So as you guys are cold calling, reaching out, door knocking, whatever you're doing to get in front of these mortgage delinquent sellers, the vast majority of them, even though they're behind on their payment, they actually want to keep their property. They want to stay in their house. So what a lot of your competitors do, and what I always used to do, is I say, okay, well, if I call somebody up and they're behind on their mortgage and they say, you know what, Bob, thanks, but no thanks, I'm actually working it out with the bank. Well, I hang up the phone. I say, okay, no problem, take care, move on to the next, because they're not a seller. Well, I'm here today to tell you to stop doing that. You want to stay on the phone with these sellers. So most of the time when you call somebody and they say, no, thanks, I'm working it out with the bank, what they actually mean is they're doing what's called a mortgage modification. What a mortgage modification is, it's when, again, the seller's behind on their payments, but they want to stay in their property. So the bank is going to let them apply for a mortgage mod. And this entails an entire financial application. They have to submit bank statements, pay stubs, tax returns, etc. All of their financials over to the lender. It takes months and months and months to do. It's a very long process. At the end of the process, if it's approved, the bank is going to modify their mortgage. So essentially what that means is they're going to get a second chance to stay in the house and pay their mortgage. Now, the tricky part here is that a very low percentage of people who apply for these mortgage mods actually get approved. When the bank looks at these guys, they need to see one of two things. Either A, that the homeowner has a drastic increase in income so that they can now pay the mortgage, or B, they need to see a drastic reduction in expenses so then they could pay the mortgage. Listen, it's a sad reality, but the fact of the matter is a lot of times neither of these things are true. Neither of these things are the case. The modification gets declined, and then the homeowner is forced to sell. They have to sell. So I have a 3-step process, a very specific proven 3-step process I'm going to give you right here, that if you follow this, I promise you, you will convert these mortgage modification leads into listings. We get deals like this all the time. All right. Step number one is you want to stay on the phone and build rapport and be supportive. This is very, very important. Don't hang up the phone when they tell you that they don't want to sell their property and they applied for a mortgage mod. I'm telling you, 99% of your competition hangs up. You're going to stay on the phone and you're going to build rapport and be supportive. Now, the supportive part is the most important. What a big mistake a lot of agents make is they'll try to convince the seller not to do the mortgage modification and instead to list their property with them. You absolutely do not want to do this. It's a terrible idea. All that's going to happen is you're going to distance yourself from the seller and they're not going to trust you. You're just going to come across as, a Florida agent that's just trying to get any old listing and, do whatever you can to take advantage of their situation. Instead, you're going to do the exact opposite. You are literally going to congratulate them and wish them luck. Now, as the conversation is flowing and you're building rapport and you're supporting them, step number 2, you're going to get permission to follow up with them throughout the mortgage mod process. As long as you execute step number 1 correctly, step number 2 is almost a guarantee that they're going to give you permission to follow up. Now, as I mentioned a minute or two ago, the mortgage mod process is very long. It could take several months. Most of the time, the seller's strapped with cash, so they don't have an attorney helping them submitting all these documents. So they're doing everything by themselves. So that's going to add even more time to it. So it should sound something like this. Listen, John, great talking to you. As I said before, best of luck with the mortgage mod. I really hope everything works out. The banks could be tough to deal with, as you know. So listen, just in case it doesn't work out and we could help you sell, you mind if I keep in touch with you? Just to check in throughout the mod process, make sure everything is going well. It should sound casual, something like that. Again, as long as you're building rapport, they're going to say, yep, absolutely, Bob, go ahead. So step number 1, be supportive, build that rapport, let the conversation flow. Step number 2, get permission to follow up. Now, step number 3, the final step. As soon as you hang up the phone, this is very specific. It kind of sounds silly, it's so specific, but I'm telling you it works. Step number 3, you're going to go right into your CRM and you're going to set a follow-up call for once every 3 weeks. We have it down to a science. You're going to follow up with them throughout the mortgage modification application exactly once every 3 weeks on the dot. We found this works best because you don't want to follow up too soon and annoy them. You don't want to be too, in their face. But then at the same time, you don't want to let too much time go past. So once every 3 weeks works. And when you do follow up, you need to call and text. Another very important, minute detail. Call and text. Now, most of the time, they're not going to answer. It's a very busy, stressful time in their life. They're gathering documents for the bank. It's very chaotic. Usually, it's going to go to voicemail. So you're going to leave a voicemail with your first and last name. Very important. First and last name. Hang up and immediately send a text message with your first and last name. And the message and the voicemail should be very, very casual. You're not being pushy. You're not convincing them to sell. You are literally just checking in like you said you were going to do. Now, leaving your first and last name is a very important detail for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, you're building a brand in their mind. Because remember, this process takes several months. You're following up once every 3 weeks on the dot. So they're going to continuously hear and see your first and last name. It's literally no different than driving down the street to work, to the office every day, looking and seeing the same billboard. It's just etched in your memory. The second reason it's very important is you're actually building trust. Even though they're not taking your call, you are building trust because you're doing exactly what you said you were going to do on that initial phone call. When you hung the call up with them the first time you guys spoke, you literally told the seller you were going to follow up with them and check in to make sure that everything is going smooth with their mod. The fact that you're keeping your word and checking in, you're going to have 10 times more rapport and trust with this seller if and when the time comes when that mod gets declined. Your competition won't have a chance to get the listing. It's all yours. It's very, very powerful. It's simple, but you just have to execute it. And the cool thing about these mods, guys, what will end up happening is you're building this list organically. So over time, as you talk to more and more people, and there are literally thousands of people right now in Florida that are in this situation applying for a mortgage mod. As you talk to these people and you just put them in your CRM, one by one, you're going to start getting listing after listing from these mods. Very powerful lead gen. What questions do you guys have on that 3-step process or anything? Put it in the chat, shout it out. Okay, cool. As I'm going, just put them in the chat then as I'm going.
Where are you getting the people from?
Yeah, great question. And that's the beauty of it, Eric, is there isn't a list. So the bank, it's actually illegal for the bank to put out a list of people that are defaulting. Because it goes against privacy laws. So you're actually building this list organically versus, you and I buying the same list and competing on it. That's the whole thing. So like if you guys decide to pursue pre-foreclosure leads, you're going to get a ton of mortgage mod leads, a ton, especially in Florida. Does that make sense?
Somewhat, but I mean, like,
yeah.
Are you reaching out to mortgage companies? Are you looking at public records? Are you going on, where are you going?
I see what you're saying.
Actually,
how are we getting the pre-foreclosure leads?
Yeah.
I have a whole slide dedicated to that.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else? Questions? Okay, cool. So this is just a quick snapshot of our mortgage mod pipeline right now. We have give or take 130 active people in that process, that we're following up with using the same system I'm telling you guys. And let's say half of them get declined, which is totally possible. Guys, that's 60 plus hot leads right there. So that just gives you an idea that this stuff works. Real quick bonus tip too. If you couldn't tell, I'm obsessed with this lead gen method. Bonus tip, and this is the last slide I have on it. So now this is something you're not going to want to do for everyone who's in a mortgage mob. All right. This is something where you really want to use your gut. So let's say you're talking to somebody and they enter into a mortgage mob, the application process with the bank, and you use the 3-step system that I taught you, and you're following up once every 3 weeks. Let's say a month or two down the road, the seller gets back to you and they say, hey, Eric, thank you so much for following up. We really appreciate it, but great news, the bank approved our mortgage mod. If you know in your heart of heart, you just know this seller's financial situation, and there's just no way in hell they could make these payments, then what you're going to do is set a follow-up for once every 30 days. Set a 30-day follow-up to check in with them. Not once every 3 weeks, 30 days. Because what happens, guys, is once the bank approves a mortgage modification for a homeowner, the process isn't over. They're going to put them on what's called a trial modification period. And that trial period lasts 90 days, and they get tested once every 30 days. So if they miss one single payment during that trial period, which happens all the time, unfortunately, the bank rescinds their offer for a mortgage mod. They take it down, and they're not even allowed to apply for another mortgage mod. So that's another bonus tip. And we've actually gotten deals that way, believe it or not, where someone got it approved, but we just knew, we're like, wow, this guy's only bringing in, X amount of income from, let's say, like Social Security and his mortgage. You know what I mean? There's just those situations where it's like, yeah, there's no way. So you don't want to do that on everyone because you want to protect your time. But yeah, that's just a little second level bonus tip. Questions on that? Cool. So, all right. Number 2, we're going to talk about, this is another really cool one. This is very under the radar. So pre-foreclosure. So failed short sale and pre-foreclosure listings, prospecting to these listings. Now, it sounds kind of crazy to go all the way back in time to before the pandemic because it's literally years ago, but this absolutely works. So what happened, if you guys recall, the end of 2019, right before 2020, excuse me, as soon as COVID hit, there was a lot of, there's a lot of people that were behind on their mortgage. They were in pre-foreclosure. They were struggling, and they listed with their real estate agent on the MLS. Well, as soon as the pandemic hit, the federal government stepped in and they enacted mortgage moratoriums. And the mortgage moratoriums said, effective immediately, we don't care how far behind somebody is on their mortgage. You are not allowed to foreclose on them if you're a bank. So this was actually the saving grace for a lot of these sellers. So they said, okay, a lot of them just let their listings expire. A lot of them withdrew them from the market, etc. And with those moratoriums, because they lasted so long, they lasted a couple years, and then even after the moratoriums were over, they lent the COVID forbearances, which I'm sure all you guys heard of. So between the moratoriums and the forbearances, a lot of these people are able to just hang on for dear life and just stretch it out, even though they're not paying their mortgage. Well, now we're at a point where a lot of those forbearances are up. And the sad reality is, a lot of those people, even though it was years ago, their financial situation is not better. In fact, because of the forbearances, a lot of them are in worse financial situations. So what we've been doing from literally since 2021 until now is going back in time. We're pulling expired pre-foreclosure and or short sale listings from literally before the pandemic hit. And we're reaching out to these sellers, and guess what? A lot of them are getting ready to sell again because the forbearances are over and they have to sell now. I'll tell you what, these are not big lists. Don't expect to pull these huge lists. They're going to be small lists, but they're very targeted and very effective. We've gotten multiple deals off them. Hidden gems. I see a lot of you guys writing, so I'm going to slow down. Guys, the sweet spot that I found, and again, you'll all find whatever, whatever sweet spot you could. The sweet spot that I personally found is we like to go the end of November 2019. That's the sweet spot that I found, like the end of November until now. And I use PropStream. It's called PropStream to pull these lists. You guys can just pull it probably from the MLS a lot easier than I could. So yeah, just use those tools. And then, when you're reaching out to them, just be casual. Don't be too salesy with these pre-foreclosure leads. You don't want to be too salesy with them. Just be casual and just get to the point. Get to the point of why you're calling. Questions on this, guys? Pulling these lists or anything? Okay, cool. You guys could ask me any questions again as we go, or even at the end, I'll hang out for a bit. So Eric, actually, before we move on to this, I thought I had more information and I didn't put enough information. So I want to answer your question of how you find pre-foreclosure leads. So guys, there's so many different list sources to pull pre-foreclosure lists. I'll just give you a couple. Number one, the one I personally use is PropStream, which I'm going to put in the chat. Is anybody here familiar with PropStream? Does anybody use PropStream? I refer them so much. I should just get one of those codes by now. Jesus. So PropStream is cool, guys, because they give you a 7-day free trial. So, you could test it out, see if you like it or not. But I like it a lot because it's so easy to use. They have literally a section that says pre-foreclosure. So let's say you're in the Tampa market and you want to pull pre-foreclosures. You literally go in the search bar, type in Hillsborough County, and then boom, the entire list. You just click on the list, filter it how you want, and then you could skip trace it. You could skip trace it right in PropStream. PropStream's about 99 bucks per month. And skip tracing, I'm typing this in. Skip tracing is about 12 cents. 12 cents a lead. I'm a very big convenience guy. I like when I could do everything under one interface. So just the fact that I could pull my entire pre-foreclosure list and then skip trace them right in PropStream is huge for me. Another good one is RedX. RedX. I haven't used RedX in a while. I used to use it, but you know what? I'll tell you something about RedX. You can pull pre-foreclosures, which is really nice. And it's nice for agents. It's nice for realtors because you guys could use their pre-foreclosure feature. But then they have like FSBOs, they have expired leads, they have all that good stuff that you guys could call to. So I'd say RedX is probably more like realtor friendly, I guess. But I'm personally a fan of PropStream to pull pre-foreclosures. I don't know how much RedX costs because I haven't used it in a while. My brother uses it. I forget what he said. It's probably around the same price, maybe even cheaper. You guys have any other questions about how to like pull the leads, how I talk to them, anything? Okay.
Actually, I do. How do you initiate the conversation on your call? Do you bring up the fact that you know that they're behind in their mortgage, or do you just kind of,
Yeah.
start off by saying, "Hey, you interested in selling?" And hopefully that comes up.
Yeah. That's the number one question I get because it's awkward, it's uncomfortable. Because, let's be honest, when you call them, Walter, They know why you're calling. You don't have to say it. So what works best for me, first off, if any of you guys use sales scripts, I know sales scripts are big. I would suggest either tailoring your sales script when you're prospecting to pre-foreclosures, or just don't use one at all. The big thing is you want to let the conversation flow. You do not want to call these people and be too rigid. Because remember, they're not your typical homeowner. You know, the situation they're in is very dire. You know, usually it's, you know, possibly one of the worst times they're experiencing in their life. The bank is sending them threatening letters. You know, the last thing on earth somebody wants is, you know, Walter calling them up and sounding like, you know, like a robot kind of, you know what I mean? And just clearly trying to profit from their situation. So you want to be very careful how you approach it. Now, to answer your question directly, Walter, the way I do it is no. I do not call them and say, "Hey, Mr. Jones, my name's Bob Vieira. I saw you're on a pre-foreclosure list," and I don't do that. I get right to the point. I say, "Hey, you know, let's say the seller's name is John. Hey, hello, is this John? Yes. Hey, John, my name's Bob Vieira. Giving you a shout about the property over at 123 Main Street. Figured I'd give you a call. Just want to see if you were open to selling, or if you know, if you thought about selling. You know, I figure we could help you out. You know, we specialize in the area." And then just shut up and let them talk. And then again, just let the conversation flow. These sellers, I'm telling you right now, when you get a good motivated seller, they will, you know, a lot of them are going to vent. They're going to talk your ear off. They're going to bitch about their lender. You know, a lot, you know, there's just let them vent is the best thing I could say. And just be empathetic to their situation. You know, that's really what they're looking for. Not, you know, they don't care about your sales presentation and your, you know, hardline sales pitch. You just let the conversation flow. You know, that's it. And just get to the point when they answer the phone. That's another thing. Be polite, but just tell them immediately why you're calling. You know, a lot of these people appreciate that. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Pre-foreclosures? Okay. All right, guys. The last one I have for you here, and this is a big one, and it's absolutely free. It costs $0. Well, I guess the mortgage mods cost zero too, but niche branding. So there's two ways that you could actually brand yourself so that you could attract pre-foreclosure deals, so that you don't have to go get them. You could literally attract them. Remember, pre-foreclosure is a niche. Anytime you're in a niche and people know you're in a niche, you will attract deals and you're going to separate yourself. This is really, really cool. So, okay. Florida's super competitive. We all know that. Lots of agents, lots of people doing listing presentations. I guarantee you that if you sit in the living room of a seller and they're behind on their mortgage, let's say they're in pre-foreclosure, and let's say I'm a realtor in Tampa and Eric's a realtor in Tampa. I go to meet with the sellers first, right? And I give them your typical, "Hello, my name's Bob Vieira. This is my listing presentation." The standard listing presentation I give them. And then Eric comes in later that afternoon, and instead of the standard listing presentation, Eric explains to the homeowner that he specializes in their specific situation. "Hey, I know you sat with Bob before, and Bob's a great agent. He could sell your house if this was a traditional situation." It's not. Because you're in pre-foreclosure, you need someone who specializes in helping in this situation. I specialize with pre-foreclosures. Eric would kick my ass on 10 out of 10 listings if we were going up against each other, if that was his pitch. That's very powerful, guy. It's such a simple concept, but nobody does it. You know, I see agents go after auction, you know, pre-auction listings, pre-foreclosures, and they don't tailor their sales presentation. If the seller knows that you were sitting there or talking to them and that you have experience helping in their situation, you're going to win. They're going to be confident. They're going to be more comfortable and confident to get you the listing. So tailor your presentations when you're going up against other people in these pre-foreclosure listings. That's number one. Number two, you could brand yourself is B2B. Tell everybody in your office, listen, here, let me back up and say this. Short sales and pre-foreclosures have a terrible reputation in the business. So I'm an investor now, and then I operate my short sale processing company full time. But I started off as a real estate agent. And I'll never forget the broker in my office. One of the first things he ever told me before I even knew what a short sale was, he's like, stay away from short sales, stay away from pre-foreclosures, blah, blah, because they're just messy. You don't want to deal with them. That's the mindset a lot of brokers and realtors have about pre-foreclosure and short sale deals. If you tell everyone in your office and all of your peers at your networking events, etc., that, hey, whenever you guys come across one of these messy deals, where somebody's behind on their mortgage and you have to deal with the bank, or maybe they're underwater and you have to deal with a short sale, listen, refer the deal to me. Don't pass it up. Or, hey, let's co-list it together. Whatever. You will be shocked how many deals start to fall in your lap if you just simply tell people to send them to you. So, and this is an amazing time, guys. As I said before, I mean, the reason I created this presentation is because something's happening in Florida right now, especially with, think about, okay, let's say with the low interest rates, someone could pay their mortgage, but think about how high the insurance is going. Insurance itself, when that gets escrowed in the mortgage payments, it's causing a lot of people to default. And a lot of your competitors are ignoring it, because they read the headlines and, the market's super hot and etc. And there's a massive opportunity here. And I think the agents that are really going to kill it are the ones that keep doing what they're doing, take on your normal traditional listings, but start to pivot and start to go after mortgage delinquent and try to really help these sellers. Massive opportunity now, and that opportunity is going to grow within the next couple of years. So think about that when you're branding yourself. Let's touch a little bit more about talking to the pre-foreclosure sellers. As I just mentioned before, when you call them, be polite, get to the point of why you're calling. And just like Walter had an excellent question, hey, should you say that I'm calling because you're on a list? In my opinion, no. It's just not necessary. Again, they know they're on a pre-foreclosure list. The bank is sending them letters. Okay? Watch your tone. Be careful. Again, you want to be very casual. You want to be very conversational. And, let the conversation flow. Do not be too salesy. If it's typically your style to be aggressive and that works for you, that's great. I'm telling you right now, don't do that. You want to be much more relaxed. You want to be just helpful. You want to be empathetic and helpful. Don't be too aggressive to get the listing. And while you're on the phone and as the conversation's flowing, there's 4 key questions you have to ask. You have to ask these questions because if you get the listing, great, but you have to know how to actually help them. So take a screenshot of this. I'm going to go through these slow, write it down, whatever you have to do, but make sure on your call, you are getting this information. So many realtors take these listings on, and I could tell right away that they didn't qualify the lead and ask these 4 questions, and it just gets super chaotic. So question number 1, you need to find out how many months are they behind on the mortgage. At least get a rough estimate. You need to know that. After they answer that for you, question number 2 is, okay, well, has your bank started the foreclosure process on you? Did they actually file the paperwork with the courts and send you the notice that they're foreclosing? that they've started it. And in the state of Florida, what'll make your life a little bit easier is the foreclosure process takes a long time because Florida is a judicial foreclosure state. So, the bank just can't come, send them a notice, and then take their property. They have to go through the court system and actually sue the homeowner technically. So that helps you as an agent because you have more time to kind of maneuver and get the deal done. So, but that's very important. You want to know if you're dealing with an active foreclosure situation. Because guys, there's a difference. If someone's like 1 or 2 months, you have a lot more time. Now, if the answer to that question is yes, they have filed a foreclosure and they're proceeding, then you have to find out, okay, did they give you an auction date yet? Because what the bank does is they'll file a foreclosure, and then towards the end of that pre-foreclosure stage, they're going to give a foreclosure sale date. So, and like that's the end line. So you have to know that. Don't forget to ask that one. Because whenever I don't look at this checklist that I made, so by the way, I didn't make this checklist for you guys. I'm sharing it with you. I made it for me because whenever I don't look at it, I never ask this question. I always forget. And then I open the file and I'm like, oh shit, there's a sale date like next week. So definitely ask that question. And then number 4, you want to know, what do they owe on the property? Now, if they're a lot of months behind, they might not have an exact answer, but get the closest you could. Hey, what is your total mortgage balance? And this is important to know because you could tell quickly over the phone whether or not they have equity in their house. So best case scenario is they're behind on their mortgage, but they have enough equity where you could just list it and sell it. Beautiful. Worst case scenario, which is happening a lot more now, is they're so far behind that they owe too much and you have to do a short sale. So you could find that out quickly over the phone. Is everybody good here? Did you take your pictures, screenshots, everything? Everybody cool?
I have a question regarding question 1. How many months are you behind on the mortgage? At what point do you think or at what point is it not worth trying to proceed 6 months to 8 months, 2 months?
Well, the cool thing about Florida is, again, because it's judicial, a lot of these sellers know how to play the game and they could prolong it. So, Walter, you will come across people who are 8, 12 plus months behind and they're still not even in pre-foreclosure. So that's why you have to ask question number 3. Did they give you a sale date? That's really the most important question because then it could be too late. If you're talking to somebody, and what's the date today? January 5th. Okay, January 5th, you talk to someone, they're like, oh, I have an auction date on this upcoming Tuesday. That might be a little dicey. That's why the auction date, you have to get that. Because then it could be too late. Now, just to go a little deeper on this, because it's a good question. So the rule of thumb that the bank uses is if their auction date is within 37 days, I have no clue where they got that number from, but that's the number. So if their auction date, if you submit an offer in and it's less than 37 days to the auction date, legally, the bank doesn't have to review it. They could just send it to foreclosure. So that doesn't mean don't take it on if it's only a couple weeks away. It just means you need to be aware that there's a probability it's not going to work out.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
So let's say they want to sell their house wherever they are in the process. What's your process? Obviously, if it's got equity and they're only a couple months behind, then you can just list it, try and sell it as fast as possible. Title company will reach out to their lender to get the payoff and all that stuff. But if they're in the process and they don't have any equity, then we're looking at short sale, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
So at that point,
it's perfect transition. And by the way, I did not pay Eric to transition like that in the slide, but that was a perfect transition. I'll get right into that now.
all right.
Yeah. So, okay. Just like Eric said, when you find out the mortgage balance, if if people are underwater and they don't have equity, you're going to have to do a short sale. And that's where my company come in, or you guys do it, however you want to do it. So a short sale in its simplest form is when the as is value of the house, so whatever that listing price is, whatever the as is value is less than what they owe the bank on the mortgage. Okay. So they owe, in this example, they owe they owe 300. Property's only worth 250. They are underwater. They have negative equity. So what the bank does, because they can't sell the traditional way, the bank will let them do a short sale, which is very simply selling short of what the balance owed is. So they'll do an appraisal, which is part of the process. And again, in this example, let's say it's valued at 250K. In this case, the bank is going to let them sell for the 250 the property's worth. And then the $50,000 difference, which is called the deficiency, that gets wiped away clean. So they avoid foreclosure and they don't have to show up to closing with any money. Now there's nothing short about the short sale process. It's, every file is different. It's impossible to say how long it really takes, but you could say a good rule of thumb is like 4 to 6+ months on average. It takes a while. And keep this in mind too, guys. You're probably thinking, the market's still so hot. There's a lot of bidding wars. I mean, everybody has equity. It's just not true. It's just not true. If you're thinking with that mindset, you're going to miss out on short sale opportunities that you could list and get a commission on, because people in this country will find ways to lose equity in their house. It's just that simple. Think about this. This is happening a lot right now. Okay. These past 3.5 years, we've had record home equity because of the interest rates. So how many people do you think sat in their kitchen, with a piece of mail they just got from the bank and said, "Oh my God, honey, look at how high they're appraising our house. We should refinance. We could refinance and, pull all that equity out and we could renovate the kitchen like we always wanted to do. Or, buy that new boat we always wanted." How many people do you think did that? Tons of people. So they're losing equity that way. Another thing is, because Florida is, again, a judicial foreclosure state, it takes so long. Every month that goes by where the homeowner does not make a payment, the interest and the late fees and the penalties compound against the principal mortgage balance. That has a resounding effect. Picture someone is 6, 8, 9 months behind. They're alone. It could be the hottest market in the world, but they're losing equity. A lot of people too. This is one thing we're seeing a lot too. A lot of people that bought their homes. We're doing I think 6 or 7 short sales right now, where somebody just bought their property within the last year to 2 years. They just bought their property. Unfortunately, they had a financial hardship, so they have to sell, and they're underwater already because they got in these huge bidding wars and they weren't able to build equity in their house. Property's worth 500. They got in a bidding war and paid 575. And now literally a year or 2 later, they have to sell. So these situations are out there if you're looking for them. All right, here's a little checklist for you now. How do you actually know if you have a qualified short sale? 3 things. So just simple 3 things. Number 1, you need negative equity. So going back to that example, property is worth 250. They owe 300 to the bank. They are underwater by $50,000. Negative equity. That's the first thing you're looking for. Once you find that, number 2, mortgage delinquency. They have to either be behind on their payments, or maybe they're current, but they're about to be behind on their payments. Either one will qualify. So number 1, negative equity. Number 2, they're behind on their payments. And then number 3, I call the bonus factor. Don't mess this one up. like I always used to. The seller of a short sale, very important to understand. The seller in a short sale they are not making any money. The bank is taking a huge loss, so they're not going to let the seller walk away with any proceeds. You need to have that conversation upfront with the seller, make sure that they're very aware that they're not walking away with any profit, because there is no profit in a short sale. The bank is taking a loss, there's no profit. So they cannot be motivated by money. Their main motivation has to be to just avoid foreclosure, get out from under the mortgage, and just have that deficiency be waived. I'm telling you, I have wasted countless hours that I can never get back because I found short sales that had negative equity and mortgage delinquency, and I jumped right in them. But at the end, the seller backed out because they were just motivated by money. They didn't care about a foreclosure. So that's make sure that they're not motivated by money. Everybody good with this little checklist here? Cool. That's the end of the presentation. That's all I got for you. But I have my gift to you here. A little while ago, I created a free course specifically for Florida real estate agents on short sales and pre-foreclosures. Literally, it's a recording. We go over pre-foreclosure fundamentals. I dive deep into lead generation of how you guys could go out and get these leads, short sale fundamentals. And then if you're crazy enough to do short sales by yourself, I literally give you our 12-step process on how we do short sales, literally. So everything is there for you. If this is something you guys want, shoot me an email. My email's right there. And yeah, just send me Florida Realtor course in the subject line, and then I'll know that you guys were on the chat with me. And like it's free too. There's no gimmicks, upsells, payments. It's literally just, that's it. You just sign up and look through it. And then stay in touch, guys. Even if you don't, don't ever feel like you can only reach out to me if you guys have a short sale lead in hand. I love to connect with you, network, stay in touch. There's my cell, my company's website if you want to check us out. Email again. Join my Facebook group too. I have an awesome Facebook group. It's not one of those groups where there's 50,000 people and it's just like everyone's spamming. It's probably I don't even know how many members, 1,100 people maybe, but everybody's active in the business. We try to give really good value. It's like an intimate group. So apply to be in that group if you're not in it.
And what do you charge for if you were to take over a short sale for us? We got a short sale and we want you to just run lead.
$6 million paid in cash. No, no, I don't charge the realtor anything, and I don't charge the homeowner anything. We get paid from the buyer on the HUD. It's a $10,000 flat fee or 3% of the purchase price. But it's free for you and it's free for the homeowner. And then everything is disclosed to the buyer and it's contractual and it's approved by the short sale lender. So we have a really good system in place. Realtors, sometimes they get nervous, if they've never done a deal with us, sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes they'll be like, oh, well, won't the fee deter the buyer from making an offer? Absolutely not, because the way we disclose it, they just factor it into their offer. And then we're an investment company as well. So the best case scenario is when you guys bring us a listing, and if it's something that needs a ton of work, we'll actually make an offer to purchase it. So you could show up with a listing, a buyer ready to go. You don't even have to market it. And, that's not all of them, but if it fits our criteria, we'll just buy it. You guys have any other questions for me? I don't know what's going on here. Anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming.
Covered it very well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed. Like I said, reach out to me anytime.
You said I see that you did record. You said you're going to send this out to us
Yep.
as well?
You'll get
Great.
an email. Be patient with me too, guys. If you email me for the course, I promise you I'll get it to you. Sometimes it just, it might take a couple days, but I will get it to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. All right, guys. Have a good one. Have a great weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you. You too.
Take care.